Welcome back, everyone. This is Mystic, and you can call me Angel. I want to welcome you back to my channel and my 150 script challenge. I appreciate and just enjoy being here with you as we glide through this wonderful, crazy challenge that I set before for myself. And I always like to explain that I don't do this just for entertainment, though I do read scripts for entertainment and for growth as a writer. It's important that any creative understand that they're always growing as a creative. And this is just one of the tools I use to grow my process. And I thought that I would kind of lean into it a little more and be with you on this journey so that you can understand not just how I use this tool, what I look at when I'm going through it, and how it affects me as a writer. So before we move on to the next script, just our regular housekeeping moment before we begin. I love my community. I love each and every one of you. I appreciate every single one of you for dropping by, hanging out with me. If you haven't done it already, please, I'd be so grateful if you could subscribe to my channel, like this video to support the work that I do, and leave a comment. And in terms of leaving comments, I always ask that we be kind to each other. I love this community that we're building. I value each and every one of you, and I desire to create a safe space for writers and creatives to come here, share thoughts and ideas. I welcome debate. I welcome different perspectives. As a writer, I'm analyzing these scripts, so they're my opinions. You may not agree. I'm happy to discuss that with you, but be kind to each other, be respectful, give each other grace, and please be kind to me as well. I always give you the same grace, even if you disagree with me, because what you hear, again, are my opinions. And I think that what makes it beautiful is that we all have these wonderful opinions, and sharing them is how we all grow and learn each other and come together as a community. So there's no reason to argue there. Okay, so that's the housekeeping. That's the day, and let's get into it. It is still the month of Halloween, so we are still working through some scary stuff, though I will probably always have some scary stuff up my sleeve. This is script number 12. We're going to dive into The Omen. So The Omen, it was released in 1976. Working with the draft of the script written by David Seltzer. It is a horror thriller, supernatural, and this one is chilling. It is about fate, family, and prophecy, where horror grows not just on jump scares, but from hidden evil in plain sight. So for those of you like Xers like myself, maybe remember when The Omen came out and how terrifying it was. So I was curious to see how this came out on paper. I always talk about why I choose the scripts that I choose. Again, this one is horror that's kind of structured like a mystery, so I wanted to see how that laid out. It doesn't lean into gore in the script. It builds dread and suspense and symbolism, lots of references in biblical writing. It's a little complicated. It's a very intelligent script. I will say that I had to read over it a couple of times just because it read like a great novel in many places. So for writers, this is about atmosphere and escalation. It's a slow burn escalation in the story. So as always, spoiler alerts, I am analyzing the script. I am not reviewing the film. So if you've seen the film, there may be some differences. Please don't come for me. It's just how the script is versus the film. And if you haven't seen the film and you want to see it first, you may want to come back to this, go look at the film, and come back and go through it again. So a quick story, a summary. So there's an American diplomat, Robert Thorne. He secretly adopts a child after his own child dies at birth. He hides the truth from his wife, but the boy, Damien, grows up. Strange things happen. There's death, there's warnings, and it's mysterious. Thorne is forced to face the truth, the impossible truth, that his son may be something more than human. And that is the theme through this whole story. You're gonna hear me flipping pages around. I have lots of notes on this, so let's buckle up, Buttercup. Let's go. So I have the heart of the story, where I go through the act structure as I saw it. And so we open the story with some ominous visuals. There's a lot of chilling things that point to something wicked this way comes, so to speak. And then boom, we're in a hospital and we meet Robert Thorne. He's told that his child died in childbirth. His wife is fine. So under false pretenses, as we learn later, he accepts a motherless child because he doesn't want to upset his wife, who was so looking forward to the birth. So he takes this child on as his own child. The inciting incident, Damien's childhood has lots of accident and violent events that suggest something is unnatural. One being the elimination of his nanny at his, I think it was his 3rd birthday here. It was a crazy scene. It was a scene that marked something evil is here, but it also marked the decline of his mother, because his mother at that point started blaming herself because of an incident or an engagement between the nanny and her just before the thing happened, and her mother unalived herself. I mean, the nanny unalived herself, and the mom blamed herself for that. The first plot point, Thorne learns about the prophecy and begins to connect the incidents around Damien, which is horrifying. He attempts to come to terms with that, doesn't actually accept it from the start, but begins to come to terms with it. Midpoint through the film, a priest has warned him about things that had happened. He warned him about the nanny's incident, and something horrible happens to the priest, and a photographer hooks up with Thorne and discovers that there are more issues at hand, as he discovers he may be one of the victims, and he decides he wants to work with Thorne to solve the mystery. The next plot point I found was Thorne travels abroad to get to the nitty-gritty. He wants to understand what's happening. He and the photographer go on this quest. The priest, before he met his fate, warned that something was going to happen to his wife, and it did. So before his wife is hurt anymore or something worse, he wants to get down to the truth about Damien's birth mother. The climax comes in when Damien and his father Thorne are locked in a battle because Thorne decides that he needs to eliminate Damien to save himself, save the world, save his soul. His wife is gone. Everything is gone. He takes them to the place he was told to take them to do the ritual to stop the prophecy. The resolution is his attempt failed. He is now eliminated. Damien is now off with another set of parents, and the hint is that the person that is now taking care of Damien is president of the United States, and that's where the story ends. So it's just mounting one thing after another. This was a crazy story. It was a wild one. The protagonist arc. So I see the protagonist in this as Thorne. He wants to protect his family and his reputation. He is a politician. He's the ambassador in the UK for the United States, and so he has an image to protect. His obstacles, he denies a lot of this stuff. His denial comes from the very beginning when he accepts this child, which, if you think about it, it's really unseemly to sneak and accept somebody else's child and pretend it's yours. I mean, you can adopt, but that's not what he did. So he's hiding behind a facade. He's hiding secrets. He is tense because the whole time he doesn't really know whose child this is. He has no idea if he's raising the child of a serial killer. He doesn't know who this child is, but he doesn't tell anybody. In the mirror, every person that's eliminated reflects his denial. There's a truth that is possibly revealed and he doesn't see it, or he ignores it, and then somebody is eliminated. As I always do, if I were to apply the hero's journey into this, the call to adventure is the priest and the photographer coming to him to push Thorne toward the truth. his refusal is just his ultimate denials, all the way through how many people suffered because Thorn refused to accept the truth, right? His mentors, I think, for me, everyone that came to him to support him, the priest, the photographer, they were the mentors. The priest came to him to warn him. He wouldn't listen to him. First, he had him thrown out by security. Then he finally met him. He said, "Get out of here, you crazy guy." And then finally, the priest was eliminated. The photographer partnered with him. Even after his wife was eliminated, the photographer was there. He couldn't handle it. And he says, "I'm not going to do this." The photographer said, "If you won't do it, I will." The photographer went to go get the tools that the prophecy said that would take care of business. And then the photographer was eliminated. So then after that, all he had left was the prophecy. He followed the prophecy, but he still wasn't strong enough. He wasn't able to act on demand as fast as he should have. And then he eventually was eliminated. The trials, everything was around life versus not non-life. It was discoveries, travel, unraveling. Everything was about protecting himself and trying to keep any more people from facing elimination. And he just couldn't do it. His transformation through the journey was acceptance of the truth, accepting that not only was his son not his son, but his son was something deeper and darker. He just took too long to come to that conclusion. And then the return for him is when he finally does return, an attempt to eliminate Damien, but in the end he failed. So, Damien survived and he did not. Let's see if I have any more notes on that. I think that's it for my notes on that. Now go into the primary themes that I found. Fate versus free will. There was a message in this story that this is the coming of the Antichrist, and we can't control the coming of the Antichrist if we are not in a specific space. And one of the things that the priest said to Thorn was, "You have to accept Christ, ask for forgiveness, drink his blood, eat the bread of Christ." And the priest gave himself to the Antichrist, and he was a supporter and he was a follower of the Antichrist. But before he left, at some point he reached a point where he repented and he wanted his soul back. He wanted salvation. He did not want to go to hell. So he wanted to save Thorn and help stop the Antichrist. He just wasn't strong enough, or he didn't have the ability to convince him. So fate versus free will. In this story, free will cannot win over fate. And then the danger of denial. Again, there were so many opportunities for Thorn to stop this, but he was too busy denying. And one of the ones that sat for me was when his wife there was a scene after they went to the zoo, and it was a wild scene. It was wild in the movie, and the description in the script was wild too, where the monkeys they could see who Damien was. So they were on one of those wildlife safari things where you drive through the zoo and the animals are around you. And the monkeys were surrounding the car and everything was fine. And the monkeys, they saw Damien for who he was, and they were not happy with that. And they pounced and jumped and scared everybody. And when she came home, she tells her husband, everything is fine. He knows something is wrong. And she says, everything is fine. And the priest had said, your wife is going to have a baby. Damien's not going to let her keep that baby. And that's when she tells him that we have a problem. She says that she's pregnant and she wants to not have the baby because she feels like something evil is around her. She does not like her son. She is afraid of her son. Something is evil about him. She asks to see a psychiatrist. For him, he's like, I love you, but he doesn't really see that she is unraveling and why she's unraveling. He doesn't put two and two together. When the priest says, your wife is going to have a baby, and then he comes home and the wife says, I'm going to have a baby, he doesn't put two and two together in a protective way. He's starting to get it, but he doesn't quite get it. The innocence corrupted. Having this story told from the perspective of the Antichrist as a child, as an innocent, sweet little boy, where you want to feel for the boy, and you don't want anything bad to happen to the boy because he's just a kid, but he's the Antichrist. So I thought that was really interesting. And then again, destiny, that you're powerless. If you accept destiny, you're powerless. How do you fight destiny? And that's one of the things that sits for me in this story. Some of the key emotional beats, again, I was really impacted by the priest's desperate warnings coming to Thorne multiple times. He came to Thorne at the embassy. He came to Thorne at the rugby game. And then he met Thorne in the park. So 3 times he came to Thorne, and Thorne would not listen. The nanny's shocking ending of herself, where she calls out to Damien and says, "Look what I will do for you." And the whole point of it was to eliminate her so that the other nanny, Mrs. Baylock, could come in, because she was one of the followers, and so she was there to protect him. But to get Mrs. Blaylock there, we had to get rid of the other nanny. Everything happened for a purpose. The photographer having photo evidence where he found that when he took pictures of people who were going to have incidents, he would have evidence of something. He had the priest with the shadow skewer coming through him, and then he was impaled. But then he had a picture of himself with a thing detaching the head from the body, and he was beheaded. So that was wild. And then the mother falling when she lost the baby. She fell from the second story area of the home, and it was orchestrated by Damien. And then the final act that failed, and it's an emotional roller coaster. Symbolism in this film: the birthmark 666 being the mark of prophecy, all the religious imagery, the churches, the priests, holy relics, the history. You know, one of the things I always say I love about writing is research. That's one of my favorite things. I am very into horror, and I love the mythology, so I do a lot of research, and this was a masterclass in melding history and mythology, which, you know, I just love that. David Seltzer clearly had an understanding of biblical history and prophetic nature of the coming of the Antichrist, and it wove it all into the story, and that gave it a feel of realism, and it also made it chilling and extremely scary. These accidents that ended up being the reasons why people were eliminated were just amazing, because they were random, and they just seemed like just random events. So as you're reading it, and you know that Damien is doing this, and there's cues to make you hear and see something bad is about to happen. But for the characters that are in the story, the people around the story, it's just a horrific accident. Nobody can point to it and say, hey, that happened. It must have something to do with this. There's no murder investigation. There's no homicide. There's no nothing. It's just an awful, unexplained, horrific accident. So the connection, the heartbeat is, you can't change what's inevitable. No matter how we try to deny it or fight, the destiny can't be stopped. And that's the message of this. Destiny cannot be stopped. Thorne's attempt to kill Damien is horrifying and heartbreaking. To have the father come to terms with this child has to die. And he says that when they call him, they being the hospital or the police, call him to tell him that his wife has had the accident, he makes the decision. She's gone, and now he too must be gone. So I got my key craft lessons for the writer that I got out of this is build tension through that slow burn, you know, not just shock, but just that slow burn of buildup. Using recurring symbols, the photos, the marks, the omen, the prophecy, and layer that with that dread that something's going to happen. The twisted love, mother to son, father to son. Oh my God, that was crazy. A father forced to confront his child as the threat, not just to himself, but to the world. And make sure that every death is not just random, that it's a piece of the prophecy. There's a reason behind each elimination. That was really, really cool. And so for my personal reflection, reading this script, I'm reminded that horror can be quiet. It can be intentful. It doesn't always need jump scares and gore. The scariest stories are the ones where we know what's coming and still can't stop it, and can still be shocked knowing that it's going to happen. So that's what I got. As I said, I don't like to make these more than 20 minutes. I'm getting better. At, at the heart of this story, the Omen is about, again, how you cannot deny your destiny, that secrecy and love built us until fate comes and it crashes down and it's unstoppable. And when it's unstoppable, it's over. It's that simple. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, if you haven't done it already, please like this video, subscribe to my channel. I welcome your comments. And hey, did you get anything else from this script if you read it? Or do you have questions? You saw the movie and you want to know how a scene played out? These scripts are long and I could do this for hours, but I only give myself like 20 minutes. So I welcome the conversation. Thank you for coming, and I will see you next time on the 150 Script Challenge. Thank you very much. Take care, and bye-bye for now.